to see you too. After come, I'm gonna text you.
Hold on.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, Ray, are we?
I'm learning how to use Zoom.
Just don't touch anything.
I won't touch anything.
Okay. Just
You
stay.
could mute yourself, David.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Morning or evening, other places probably.
There he is. I see you, Deshaun. How are you?
Okay, I'm well. Good to see you, brother.
Likewise, bless you. We got from New York, Leone Hossett
Okay,
and Brother David Hardy. And in Saudi Arabia, there is Dr. Rainer Roberts.
pleasure.
Hi. Nice meeting you as well.
Thank you.
Ray, it's about 4 minutes past the hour now. How long do you think we should?
I think we
wait
should
before
start. For the sake of time, I think we should go ahead and start because it's going to be recorded and it's being live streamed.
All right,
And-
so I get it. Why don't we go wait 1 more minute, 17:05 here or 11:05 there, and then we'll get right into it.
Hold on a second. I made you the host. Hold on. Accept that request real quick.
All right, why don't we go ahead and get started with who we have here, and as you said, it's live stream, and so if there are some individuals that come late or don't get a chance to join us, they'll be able to see it. They'll be able to see the video later or the recording later. Greetings to everybody. I want to first of all thank you for joining. We certainly do appreciate it. We are excited about what we're trying to do and the opportunity that is before us. If there's anyone here that doesn't know who I am, I'm Spangali Soa. I'm the lead consultant for the Pan-African, which is a consultancy based in Africa, registered in Liberia, Zambia, and the Republic of South Africa. I'm currently now in Lusaka, Zambia. If I could get everybody to simply type into the chat room at their leisure what city they're in right now, that would really be helpful for future purposes. Also in the meeting is Dr. Rainer Roberts, who has been a good dear friend of mine for a number of years now. He is the managing partner and founding member of the Academic Partnership, which is an education consultancy in the United States, or a US or an American education consultancy that operates mostly out of Riyadh, the capital city of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And they provide education solutions for various entities throughout the globe. He's here because he's working with me on this tour, or working with Pan-African on this tour. And he undoubtedly, through his international experience and travels, has much to contribute. What I want to do now is I want to go through some points that I have outlined, some things that people may be interested in. And after I go through these. If there are any questions left unanswered, everyone is certainly free, welcome, and encouraged to ask any question that they may want to ask. When you talk about international travel, people's experiences vary, to say the least. So there is no question that is unmerited, and there is no question that does not deserve an answer. So feel free to ask any question that you feel you want to ask. First, I want to talk about why the need, very quickly, why there is a need for such a trip to Africa in general, Rwanda in particular, and for those interested in the Rwanda and South Africa. There is a practical need as well as a need for a reclamation of connection. Practical need in that there are a great number of opportunities on the continent of Africa that is certainly magnified in a place like South Africa and a place like Rwanda. There are a great deal of opportunities for investment, a great deal of opportunities for real estate investment, for SMEs, and a whole plethora of opportunities throughout the continent that when you go through the continent, you find a variety of people taking advantage of, but you don't find the descendants of Africa, Black people, taking advantage of those. And then I don't want to dwell on this, but the need for connection, reclaiming that connection to the continent is there. Many of us have seen the movie 12 Years a Slave, which was a phenomenal or sensational movie. But the book, if anyone has had an opportunity to read the book, you realize how much that is a very important story. And in that book, Solomon Northup talked about or referred to those that were enslaved as Africans. And that took place over 230 years after the first slaves had set foot on the continent of North America. And so if 230 something years onward, Blacks were still identifying or maintaining the connection or recognizing the connection with the continent, I think that it is an atrocity that in freedom, that connection has not become stronger. And that's pretty much the moniker or the modus operandi of the Pan-African, which is to invest in African people and the African continent and to galvanize members of the diaspora. The trip in particular, I wanted to touch on a few things that people may have questions about. Number one, pressing question often when these kinds of things are put together is what type of accommodations will we have? Where will people be staying? We have sent correspondence to well over 50 potential accommodations. These are all 4-star and 5-star accommodations. Pan-African gives priority to Black-owned institutions, no matter what it is, whether it's a hotel, a restaurant, even airlines, as we'll get to shortly. But the type of accommodations will be 4-star, 5-star quality. We've solicited the feedback from major international hotel chains. We've kind of Marriott, Radisson, those names like that, as well as some regional 4- and 5-star outfits like the Togo Sun in South Africa and so on and so forth, as well as some in Rwanda. So that is going to be the level or the quality of the type of accommodation throughout. Now, when we get into areas of safaris, accommodations may not be as well. The options for accommodations, obviously, in a non-urban area or rural area or a safari area, wildlife area, are not going to be as many as an urban area. But those that are there, of those that are there, we have connected with those that do provide the best type of accommodation, the highest quality accommodations. Let me offer an apology now. I'm in a public place, Meraki Cafe. It's a cake bar here in Lusaka, Zambia. So if you hear some background noise, I beg your pardon. But if you're ever in Lusaka, this is one place that you have to come. Now, the sharing arrangement, when we are on the trip, in terms, still keeping with the accommodation, those that have already selected their partners or whoever they want to travel with, that will simply be made known prior to arriving, and you'll be paired up or partnered with whoever you want to, or whoever you have predetermined that you want to share accommodations with. Those that don't have that will connect you with patrons that are also traveling as sharing patrons, but they don't have anyone to partner with, and will connect men with men and women with women in those situations. The next item that I wanted to discuss is the food. So after the accommodations, when it comes to people of our hue, food is a big thing. The meals as outlined in the program that I sent around will be that is the Rwanda only. You get 6 breakfasts and I think 7 lunches and 7 dinners. This does not include alcoholic beverages. I want to be clear about that. And it will more times than not be with local cuisine or eating the local cuisine. It doesn't make an entirely great deal of sense to fly thousands of miles across the Atlantic, or if you're going from the West Coast across the Pacific, to simply try to eat the same things that you were eating when you came. Though there are outlets for Western cuisine and quote unquote international cuisine, when it comes to the trip in the group, we're speaking of mostly local cuisine, and that food provision of the program covers only group dining. So if an individual wants to eat something else and they want to go off somewhere else, that's fine. But the cost of whatever you go off as an individual to eat would not be incurred by the Pan African. Airport pickup and drop off. Airport pickup and drop off will be for those arriving on the day that the program starts. So if it is for those that decide they want to do the Rwanda and South Africa segment of the trip, then they'll be met at the airport, picked up on the 15th of June. And then when the trip concludes, they'll be taken back to the airport in Durban if they're going to fly back to Rwanda for their return flight to the United States or wherever they're coming from. And if it is the Rwanda only, they'll be met at the airport on the 19th and taken back to the airport at the conclusion of the trip. Those that want to arrive earlier or have to arrive earlier due to necessity of logistics, or want to depart later, they'd be responsible for their own accommodation if it is before the 15th or the 19th, and they'd be responsible for getting to that accommodation from the airport if it is on or before before the 15th or before the 19th, and the same on the return. Children, for children under 14, if there are any individuals that want to bring children under 14, or any people that want to bring children under 14. You can have a maximum of 2 children per 1 adult. Children under 14, they can participate at no charge, but the accompanying adult must pay for a single fare participation. And then they would be responsible for all of the children's activities, foods, and services would have to be covered by that parent. And so the child can come free and be in the accommodation and on the transportation with the trip, but in terms of entrance fees and other program costs, the parents will be responsible for that. And that's a maximum of 2 children below 14 per 1 adult. If it were 2 children or 4 children, meaning that there's a husband and a wife, and there are 4 children total, 2 for each adult. Each husband, the husband and the wife would pay for the full fare of a single patron, and they would have 2 children. Now, that applies to legal couples, and we're applying Rwandan law when we say legal couples. Legal couples, as defined by Rwandan law, are husband, a man, and a wife, man and a woman, biological man and a biological woman. Now, the flights. Right, the flights, people may have some concerns about the flights. We're not booking any flights, but this particular portion, I want you to listen as keenly as you possibly can, because it is far simpler than it may sound. We have sent correspondence to Ethiopian Airlines and Rwanda for them to sponsor us. Ethiopia has responded, and they are now contemplating our request, and we should hear back from them very soon. If that be the case, if they do decide, then the international flights from the United States to Rwanda will probably be at a significant discount. As it is now, just the commercial flights, if you were to just do a simple Google search for Ethiopian Airlines, they are probably the lowest costing airline that can fly from the United States to Africa. And they offer the shortest in duration. Rwanda Air is partners with Qatar Airways. So Qatar, they fly from the United States to Qatar and then to Rwanda. So they do have provision for arranging international flights, but for convenience and cost effectiveness, we found that Ethiopian Airlines is best for that. And most of Ethiopian Airlines flights are coming from the eastern seaboard of the United States. Washington, D.C., New York, Newark, New Jersey, Boston, Massachusetts. Those that would be coming from the western seaboard, West Coast areas, Texas and further out, what I've found so far to be the best 2 options in terms of international flights are Turkish Airlines and KLM. Both of those would be a bit longer in duration of total travel time. They go to Europe, they go to Turkey first, and they go to KLM goes to Amsterdam. And the time in air would be about half and half. Both the duration of the flights from or with Ethiopian Airlines to Kigali would be somewhere around 20 hours in terms of total travel time, but that would be like a 13-hour plus flight to Addis Ababa with a 4-hour layover at Addis Ababa airport, which does have showers and whatnot in their lounges. And then a flight of a couple of hours or maybe 2.5 hours from Addis Ababa to Kigali. So your time in air with Ethiopian Airlines is a lot less than your time in air with Turkish Airlines or KLM or some of the others, which would go to Europe first, which would be about 10 hours or so to the European country, and then another 8 hours or so to Rwanda. There is a flight from Delta that goes directly to Johannesburg, South Africa. And those that are going to do the Rwanda and South Africa portion may want to consider that, which is about 15 hours, just over 15 hours. And then the following morning at 3 a.m., there's a flight from Johannesburg straight into Kigali, Rwanda. Challenge with that flight is it's a Delta Airlines flight, and it leaves at maybe 9 o'clock or just before 10 p.m. and it arrives in South Africa around 7 p.m. the next day. You wouldn't be able to get a flight directly into Kigali, Rwanda until the following day. So you're talking essentially about 3 days of traveling if you do it that way. That's very cumbersome. That's quite burdensome. Then you'd have to find accommodations or stay in Johannesburg overnight. And then, or just a few hours from 7 p.m. until 3 a.m. the next morning before you fly out, which you'd have to be back at the airport at midnight. Essentially, you'd be in Johannesburg about 5 hours. And get on another flight to go to Johannesburg or to go to Kigali at 3 a.m. So you're talking about being there 8 hours total. Medical insurance. This is the last thing that I wanted to touch. Medical insurance. For the most part, you can make an arrangement with your current insurance provider to make sure you're covered for international travel. I imagine that many of you are already travelers and you've already done that. But if you haven't, it is good to do such. If you don't, and you arrive in Rwanda, technically, you're supposed to have traveler's insurance when you get there. But I've been to Rwanda several times. They never make you get the traveler's insurance, but it is there. Something like $3 per day.
Yes, Uganda is. No, I mean this first group wants to come South African one, and I'm wondering why.
My apologies. That was actually, I thought everybody was muted. That was Mr. Ivan Sankobuge. I know the voice out of Uganda, who is the founding partner of Ignosia research firm. He'll be talking to you in a few minutes if there are some questions that he wants to address as well. He is part of this. He, like Dr. Roberts, is a good friend of mine personally. I've been knowing him for over 20 years. He himself used to be a tour operator in Uganda, so he has a great deal of knowledge that you may benefit. So, but the medical insurance is only if you don't make an arrangement with your own medical insurance provider wherever you're coming from, and you get to Rwanda and you want to buy medical insurance, it's something nominal like $3 per day, or for how many ever days you're there, something like that. It's not any major thing. Before I open it up to questions now, since I did mention medical insurance, the inoculations or vaccinations, there are no vaccinations needed for Rwanda or South Africa. Rwanda, if you are coming from a country that has yellow fever or has had a recent outbreak in yellow fever, then you are required to have the yellow fever vaccination. In other words, if you are coming from a yellow fever country like Democratic Republic of the Congo, for example, you're flying to Rwanda, you are required to have the yellow fever vaccination. Or if there was a recent outbreak of yellow fever in whichever country you're coming from, then you'd be required to have the yellow fever vaccination. My assumption is that everyone would be flying from a Western country, and so there would be no need for you to have the yellow fever vaccination. if you say, okay, I want to get the yellow fever vaccination, anyway, you can go to any WHO outlet, which are found at major airports. I'm sure in New York there's one, Atlanta, all your major international airports would have a WHO clinic in which you can get yellow fever vaccination. Malaria would be a concern, but there are prophylaxis for malaria, which is caused by mosquitoes, which in both countries, Rwanda and South Africa, they're not major issues. We will be going on safaris in those areas. They're not, mosquitoes may be there, but the malaria is not the issue because malaria is in places that have standing water and unclean water. And I think you've seen from some of the program info, both of the places that we're going to are modernized places with respect to their cities. And there's no issue of malaria in South Africa at all. And only in certain parts of Rwanda that there used to be malaria issues. But for the most part, both places have maintained a pretty good grip on malaria. And if anyone, I've had malaria twice in my life, which was years ago in 2007, while in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. I got malaria, and then once again, problems, just a bad headache. All right, that's pretty much what I wanted to start off with. I thank you for your patience. Again, let me ask if you can, type whatever city you're coming from in the chat window, or whatever city you're in right now in the chat window. We would greatly appreciate that. I'm going to unmute microphones now, or rather, you can unmute yourself, and if you have any questions, or I didn't cover anything that you were curious about, I ask you to go ahead and make your question known now. Ivan, you are there. We heard you. Is there anything that you wanted to add? Or Dr. Roberts, is there anything that you want to add that maybe I didn't cover?
How's everyone? I hope everyone is well. Assalamu alaikum, Eid Mubarak for anyone who's Muslim. I think this, you did a great job in giving us the specific logistical details. I just want to just make sure we go back to the purpose of this deal. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to come back to the continent. I'm pretty sure many of you probably have already been to the continent, but in a meaningful way, and for us to reconnect with our brothers and sisters on the motherland. There's a lot that we can do as African Americans. If we step back and think for a second, we are the wealthiest Black people on this planet. Let me say that again. As a group, as an ethnic group, we are the wealthiest dark-skinned people on this planet. And so in many ways, we have a responsibility, or we should have a responsibility. It's going back home. Let's go back home and make sure we uplift and mentor and support our brothers and sisters on the continent who need our support. And they need our support in many, many ways. The continent, many countries, Rwanda and South Africa they have a lot to offer. That there's a lot of opportunities, but there's a lot of gaps. And many of you, I'm pretty sure, are professionals, are SMEs who can help fill those gaps. And I think, in my opinion, it's our responsibility to do that. And we can get some benefit from it also. To whom much is given, much is required. You know, Rwanda is doing great things. However, there's gaps. South Africa has done great things, but there's the gaps. We have the knowledge and know-how to fill those gaps. Many of us, all of us. We also have, many of us have the financial ability, the capital to help fill those gaps. And also, again, benefit. So I think, if anything, this is when we start talking about things like Juneteenth, and when we talk about concepts like reparations, and we see some of the landmark Supreme Court Supreme Court cases that has come down the pipe recently, it should awaken us to ensure that we begin to create an infrastructure like other ethnic groups do, to build a base so we can so we don't have to worry about Supreme Court rulings. We don't have to worry about receiving help from others when we could be the source of that help. When we can go back to a continent that has resources, natural resources that the world needs. Our cell phones will not operate without Africa. There's many other, we have uranium and gold and diamonds and you name it. The resources are right there in the motherland. And it is a shame. It would be a shame, and it is a shame, that the wealthiest Black folk on this planet are not investing, are not engaging in their own ethnic motherland. We would not ask the Arab to not take advantage of oil. You would not ask other folks to not take advantage of their motherlands, or native lands. So I think this trip is important. I think we can have fun. I think we can learn a lot. And I also think we can be a benefit. So I see this opportunity as a rebirth, if you will, since Juneteenth is such an important thing recently. I see it as a rebirth and a ground zero of reestablishing ourselves and acknowledging the opportunities that we could bring and how we can support the continent of Africa. Yeah.
Dr. Roberts, excuse me, there's a question that has come in on the chat in terms of the cost outside of the flights. And I didn't specifically mention anything about the flights. The flight, or rather the cost, if you're going to Rwanda only, the cost is $2,100 US per person for the entire 7 days. And if you're going as a single, that's for shared accommodation. If you're going as a single person, it is $2,600 US for the entire 7 days. If you're going for Rwanda and South Africa, the entire cost for the 9 days that will be there, 9 or 10 days, would be $3,350 US for shared accommodation, and then $3,990 US for single accommodation.
Can you write those numbers down in the chat?
Yeah, no problem. Are there any other questions? What are the dates of the trip? Good question. The dates of the trip, and if you type a question in the chat and I don't respond to it, or Dr. Roberts doesn't say anything, just please unmute your microphone and ask the question, because I just overlooked it or I didn't see it. The dates of the trip. For those that want to go to Rwanda and South Africa, the trip will start The program will start on 15th of June 2024 and ends on the 23rd of June 2024. For those that want to be in Rwanda only, it will start on the 19th of June 2024 and ends on the 25th of June 2024.
They have a new office there. Well, a dinner to welcome them before they go to Moscow.
Are there any other questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Yes, please.
I joined the meeting late. I was wondering if this would be recorded to where I can go back and watch it from the beginning.
Yes, it certainly will be. We're recording
Okay.
now. We'll send that link
I'll-
around. I don't know how you found out about it, but you can visit us at www.thepanafcon.org or our Facebook page or Smangaliso Do on Facebook. All of those outlets, it'll be posted there.
Please put all that in the chat, Smagaliso.
All right.
I just included the live stream link where you can watch from the beginning on YouTube.
Thank you.
No, okay, somebody else asked, does the trip for Rwanda start in South Africa or Rwanda? Both trips start in Rwanda. And good question. All of these are good questions. The reason why we have determined that the trip must start in Rwanda. At first, we were planning this and we had done a little checking around to see what people who are interested in this were thinking and wanting. Some had said that they want to also see South Africa, or some were saying South Africa. We were only going to put together a program for Rwanda only. We developed a program for Rwanda and South Africa for those who had been influenced by the media and had seen some of the good things in South Africa and had learned about some of the beauty of South Africa. As it is right now, I often say this, and I stand by it, Rwanda is the closest thing that we have to an actual Wakanda. It is a beautiful place. And the emphasis that we try to focus on is Black ownership. And this is a challenge even on the continent. When you get off the airplane in Rwanda, you're going to have an impactful experience of things being run and operated by a well-disciplined society, people that have the same skin color as us and all of our ancestors. Rwanda now is one of the cleanest, safest, most productive countries on the continent, and some have even compared it to other parts of the world. I've been to Brussels and Antwerp, Belgium. I prefer Rwanda over Brussels any day. Some are calling Kigali now the Dubai of Africa, which I don't like that type of comparison. I think that Kigali is far better than Dubai. But we have to start in Rwanda because I believe that those who are coming to Africa for the first time, this is probably the best impression or the impression that you should have. And as Dr. Roberts had mentioned earlier, there are some challenges in other parts of the continent. Rwanda and South Africa are unique, and we'll deal with those as necessary as time goes on. But that old commercial in the United States about head and shoulders, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So we decided to start the trip in Rwanda first. Good question. Please continue. Any other questions?
I would like to know from everyone why are they interested in this trip? And I'm interested in that question. Why is everyone interested in such a trip like this?
Well, I just assume that everybody is quite intelligent. that's why I think that everybody is interested in the trip because they're quite intelligent and they realize that there's a need to go to the continent, and that's what they want to do. They are wonderful people.
Well, the question wasn't pointed to you. The question was pointed to our guests. Would anyone like to chime in and kind of tell us why you're interested in this trip?
To be honest, I had no idea about a trip. I seen on the Facebook group about something about an Africa meeting or something like that. And that's why I tuned in to see what was going on, because I consume like a lot of information about different countries in Africa. I do have an interest in being based there, maybe South Africa at some point in the future. So any kind of information I can get on the continent, I'm very interested in that.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
I was more interested because I don't know how many trips have you guys done like this? How many Pan-AFCON trips back to Africa have you guys, done?
Back to Africa trips, no, we haven't done. This will be the first one of its kind.
Okay, so I remember talking to you a while ago and just seeing it, come to light was exciting because, you had mentioned this trip to me a couple of years back. So, it's like we're getting closer and closer to making it happen. So that's one of the reasons why I'm interested. And then, of course, I've never been to Africa, and why not go visit Africa with my brother from the sandbox? So that's the basis of my trip, is to see what it's like, and then the opportunity for those connections that you mentioned, Dr. Roberts, and that's always exciting. I put in the chat like minds with similar grinds, and to be able to build those bridges. And I got 11 grandkids, so to build a foundation where it's just not Columbus, Ohio, or Flint, Michigan, or Tennessee, wherever we at, it's rooted even deeper because, Native Americans were here in the United States. So, and then you talk about, you mentioned like the slave trade and things of that nature. All of that happened. What we gonna do going forward? How we gonna bridge these gaps? So that's why I'm interested.
That's a very good observation in terms of the last thing you said. I found myself that way for a number of years. I could always point out what's wrong in all of these challenges that we face. There comes a point in time where you have to overcome the adversary and say, okay, this has happened. This is what was done to us. Now I have to do something about it. And I think that this kind of trip does something about it.
So I want to address.
They want to see their ancestors' journey from. That's a very good observation.
I want to address Miss Chessie Williams' question about medical facilities.
Okay.
And you can speak to Rwanda. I'll talk about South Africa. South Africa has, first world medical facilities. Keep in mind, the first modern heart transplant, right, was done in South Africa, right? So South Africa has very modern hospitals, medical facilities. So there wouldn't be any concern, but I'm glad you asked the question because I want to emphasize something that Shimanga mentioned about medical travelers insurance. for those who have who travel extensively, you know the importance of medical insurance. If you do attend this trip or any trip that you go abroad, make sure you spend the extra couple bucks for medical insurance, traveler's insurance. It is definitely a lifesaver. I do several trips with large groups, mainly to the States. I take other folks from other countries to the States. And there's been several times where the traveler's insurance actually was a major benefit because someone got sick or whatever the case may be, and they didn't have to worry about paying the bill. So please, you can go online, type in medical traveler's insurance. It's typically a couple bucks, nothing, not a very nominal fee. Shamaga, you want to talk about Rwanda medical facilities?
Before you continue, this is Chessie Williams. Thank you, Dr. Roberts. I was actually inquiring from the perspective of proximity, how close the medical facilities might be to where we're located, because you did mention, I believe it was mentioned earlier that we'd be taking safaris, or those who may be interested, and I'll be traveling with children most likely. So that's the reason for my inquiry. I mean, there is no question in my mind. You're talking about the cradle of civilization. So I'm confident that those who were always trained in the best sciences in the world would be able to, or capable of taking care of us should we fall ill. So there's no question there, but I'm really concerned about the proximity of some of the medical facilities, because we know sometimes as you journey, the medical facilities may be at a far distance while you're en route. And like I said, I will be traveling with children. My son, who happens to be an asthmatic, I'm concerned about those things. So that's why I inquired. Thank you.
As far as South Africa is concerned, most of the safaris are not really that far. We're not going deep in the bush, right, Shalanga? So we're not going deep in the bush. You can have a safari in South Africa that's literally 20 minutes from the city. So medical facilities will be readily available from the South Africa because we're not going deep in the bush with that issue. Yeah, Rwanda.
Ms. Chessie Williams, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for that question. Dr. Roberts is absolutely right. For where we'll be having safaris in South Africa, they're about between 2 and 3 hours away from Durban by road. But even in those
I'm sorry,
areas,
speak up, please. I can barely hear you.
Sorry, thank you. Where we'll be having safaris from in South Africa, they're about 2 to 3 hours from the urban areas from Durban. But even in those areas, there will be medical facilities in those areas. Now in Rwanda, you got to think is only about 10,000, just over 10,000 square miles, the whole country. So nothing is too far from anything in Rwanda. But Rwanda has a roads network, paved roads, and so even if it were to get back to the capital city, it wouldn't be too long. But even there are other towns and cities near where we'll be when we go on the rainforest safari in Rwanda, which would be no more than 30, 45 minutes away. But even in those areas, there would be provisions for medical attention. Ivan, are you there? Would you want to say anything to that? If not.
Hi, Smanga. Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry I also joined a bit late, but I'm glad to be part of this. It's been a long time coming, and I've been involved in something similar over the past few years in Uganda. I'm from Uganda. I've known Smanga for 20 years now. Yeah, and I think it's a good initiative, and hopefully this first trip will happen next year, and then we'll build on from there. Thank you.
No, when I was asking specifically because you at one point had worked in Rwanda, Chessie Williams is asking about the proximity of medical facilities. Once we get outside of Kigali, in the Yungwe forest, for example, medical facilities, proper medical facilities are definitely near, would you say, within?
Yes, I mean, it's a small country, very hilly or mountainous, but they have good infrastructure. So getting from A to B is not that difficult. and they have some good hospitals, mainly in the urban centers though, but I mean, getting around is quite convenient even by air, so I wouldn't see it as a problem.
Thanks. Cassandra Berryman has said that Alliance or Travel Safe are great travel medical insurance companies. We appreciate that, Cassandra. I don't know if she's still in with us on that. Thank you for that, Cassandra.
Also, if you have an American Express card, they typically have a medical insurance, especially if you pay for the trip with your American Express card.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, can I be heard? Am I heard?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly, David.
Okay. I know we tend to go places as people from America, and we take with us certain attitudes. Are there any particular customs that we should be aware of and act accordingly when we get there? Not to say that anyone's going to act out or do something strange, but you go somewhere different and people are different. So is there something more that we should know about our attitudes, the way we talk, the way we carry ourselves there?
Well, I'm so grateful that you joined the meeting, and I'm so grateful that you asked that question. Seriously, I am. I know Dr. Roberts, and I'm glad Ivan's microphone is muted right now because I can only imagine what he's saying in response. There's no one size fits all answer to that question. I think that the best thing to do is to, what I have learned is that there's two things you have to have when traveling anywhere, but particularly in Africa. Number one, you have to, if you don't have, you have to develop a level of patience for reasons that you just highlighted, David, in terms of being in a culture that you are part of, in terms of a broad culture, in terms of African people. But as we know, we consist of many different subcultures, subsets of cultures. But you have to be patient, and you have to give consideration to the fact that there may be a different way of thinking than what you are accustomed to. Let's imagine this. Take somebody who was born and raised in New York City, in the Bronx, or down in Brooklyn, Harlem. How would they function if they went down to Laurel, Mississippi, or Picayune, Mississippi? What they think is ordinary and normal in Brooklyn and the Bronx, which would very well be ordinary and normal, it won't fly. You don't even have to go across the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean to do that. So you'd have to be patient, and you have to take into consideration that what you think is right is not necessarily the right thing, or it may be the right thing, but with a different way of looking at it. And the reverse would be true as well, in terms of someone from Laurel, Mississippi receiving someone from New York. They'd have to be patient and understanding as well. That's the beautiful thing about Africa and African nations. They are certainly accommodating. We are accommodating people on the continent, sometimes too accommodating. That's how the Europeans were able to do what they had done on the continent. But that understanding is there. I have seen firsthand the other way around, where the understanding from us coming from stateside is not there. And we should just be mindful. Aside from that, anything else I could get into specifically in terms of handshaking, hugging, things like that, those are things that I would want you to experience when you came. And you will experience those. So, very good question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I can add, I really don't see that, the huge variances, really. Just be yourself. The way you would act at home, just act accordingly. You'll be fine. The cultures are not that great. There's not great variance in cultures, so you'll be fine. You talk about payment plans, Shimanga. I don't think we really talked about how the payment is
Yeah,
made?
well, the payment is outlined in the program that we put across the internet, but it is basically 25% at strategic points between now and next May. So the first payment, 25% is due on August 19th. And it's just, I put the numbers in terms of the cost of the program in the chat. 25% due for whichever payment option you are taking. If you're doing the installments, 25% is due on August 19th. And then 2 months later, another 25% like that, all the way up to May 15th, right? Bear in mind, May 15th is when the final payment is due. For those that are going to Rwanda and South Africa, your payments start on August 15th. For those that are just going to Rwanda, payment would start on August 19th, 25% each paid. That's very necessary because lots of what we're doing requires advanced booking and advanced planning to make sure that we put on a good entertainment and that people have the most successful experience that they can possibly have.
You have a question about the thing, about the itinerary. You have a question about the itinerary, Sean.
Let me take a look at it. Very good observation. We can't be so ethnocentric in our thinking. Talk about payment plans, okay. What are some of the things planned for us during the trip? I'll put the links for where you can find the details, the detailed programs. I'll put those links in there now, but it's too voluminous. There are too many things that we're doing, both as groups and as individuals, and too many opportunities. It's all detailed in the PowerPoint show presentations that we have on the internet. And you can also visit the website, which I've already put there. But I'll put the link to the website, which tells you exactly the entire programs there at the page, the trip page specifically. So specifically, if you don't want to deal with going through the website, it's there, www.thepanafcon.org/Juneteenth trip to Rwanda, South Africa. That's where you can get, I just put that link in the chat. You can get all the details about everything that the trip is going to entail, all the stops, everything. All right, I think that we've been on for an hour. This is not the end of such meetings. We will have these meetings. I think we're going to, from now until the trip, we'll do meetings at least twice a month on Zoom. We'll have another one 2 weeks from now. If you have any other questions that you want to ask or any information that you didn't hear today, please feel free to use the website to find us on Facebook. And let me type in my email address, or the Pan-African's email address, and you can email us if all else fails. I can also be reached on WhatsApp. Let me put the WhatsApp number there. You have a question that you want an immediate answer to, the best thing to do is to send me a message on WhatsApp.
I'll include my WhatsApp also.
All right, thank you everybody for attending. Ivan, did you want to say anything else before we go?
Not really, but yeah, like I said, it's good to hear from you guys, and hopefully this actually comes to some kind of fruition within the next year. Thanks.
Very, very good. Dr. Roberts, one last thing.
Well, I wish everyone a safe and prosperous day, tomorrow, and future. Hopefully we'll see you next year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. And I want to thank you all for
Yep,
joining.
definitely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
No problem. If there are any other questions, please feel free to contact us. Find us on Facebook, find us on the internet. My WhatsApp number is there. Email address is there. Dr. Roberts' WhatsApp number is there. Until we meet again, which will be about 2 weeks from now, we look forward to hearing from all of you, and we look forward to your registrations. Go to the webpage and start registering so we can start getting things in order, please. Thank you so much.
Thank
Well,
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.